All right, welcome back, everybody, to Wall Street Reporter's Discovery Day live stream. We'll bring you one of our big winners so far in the resource space, silver, which is heating up, and of course, copper, which we're going to be talking about, something we haven't talked about yet, Fabled silver, gold, FCO, TSX, FBSGF. Peter, Peter, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Jack. Always fun to be back and have a chat with you.
Peter, it's been a long time, and I really, for today, I really want to focus on answering audience questions, because we've got a lot of very smart people here, a lot of very, yeah. You've developed a real cult following, so I want to focus on getting the questions answered. So please, guys, anybody watching right now, just put in the questions. Peter will answer them. And again, for anybody that's new for the first time, anybody tuning in, our goal with these live streams is to bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. We've had a whole bunch of them in the past, actually the last 18 months. We haven't had a 100x. We have had a 50x, a 5,000% recently. And, we're going to find out if Fabled is going to be that next 10 bagger or more. The stock has already done pretty well so far since the introduction. Had a nice little pullback as every other micro cap has had since February, but looks like we're building a nice base. So today we're going to find out what's next, and can Fabled, go 10x from here? Can this become a $2 stock? I think it's so Peter, actually, with that, I want to ask you that first. I want to ask, kind of ask you this big picture question, and then we'll dive into the audience questions, to get the nitty gritty. So
absolutely.
Again, without I don't want it to sound like we're not hyping this or anything, but can Fabled be a $2, $3 stock, which would make it a 300 million market cap? Can it get there? And if so, what's the path of progress to get there right now?
Excellent question. I'll kind of use this analogy, Jack. The people that invested in Fable and everything else, they invested for the silver assets. So basically, they invested for a one-barrel shotgun shooting silver. And if you took the two probably best performing metals in the long term, and people are the bullish on, it's silver, and the other one is copper. And copper right now is over $4 a pound, and they're predicting shortages years and years to come. So it bodes very well. So it just happens that without the new investors that invested for silver, they actually bought a company that had tremendous copper assets. And so now they own a double barrel shotgun instead of one shotgun. So if one was going to get
you're going to get 2-for-1 package right now.
Yeah,
and this is actually very timely with today's analysis. So let's maybe you can talk about today's news, and then we'll go back to the 10x. Because this is actually very interesting. We never talked about the copper assets before, really. So what is this like? I don't think anybody even knows that this exists. I mean, unless they read the filings. So tell us about your copper assets, and what does today's news mean exactly?
Okay. When I took over, the company had some copper assets that were put together by some of the old management. And given where these copper assets are in northern British Columbia, there's certain windows open that you can do exploration and everything else. Now, my focus was, and still is, my primary focus is Mexico and silver. That's my specialty, unequivocally. That's where I'll hit you a home run. But the copper assets, a certain amount of monies were already paid by Fabled Copper at that time. And I wanted to evaluate these assets to see if they're worthwhile to keep, Jack, because money already paid on it. And there's a crazy amount of data on them. And so the long and the short was that there's basically two entities that we have to deal with, or we have dealt with, are the vendors of these things. And one of the entities, they had a stupid deal. I mean, I don't know whoever thought of this one, but anyways, the payment this year was supposed to be $5 million, and then plus an advance on our royalty. It was ridiculous. So after arm wrestling and everything,
So it must be some incredible project then to get, for that type of payment.
oh yes, once we're ready to announce this, which is be very shortly, I think not only Fabled Silver shareholders, but everyone's going to be quite surprised to see what happens. And I'm not talking little showings here, like the Santa Maria. I'm talking like developed mines that were shut down, and some of them never even got to production.
Okay, so this is something. So basically, this is something that can go in. You can start generating revenues with this project, like
Well, there's a lot to be done to that point, Jack. But what I guess what I'm trying to say is we basically own the complete Muskwa copper belt, and there's 50 known copper occurrences, of which 5 are known deposits with tonnages on them, even though they're historical, they're still there, and there's a lot of freaking copper in one area, a lot. So
Okay.
all I'm saying is that there's a certain value to this, and what we have to do. So now that we've gotten good terms, going from $5 million payment to $200,000, and I know some of the shareholders was probably saying, well, shouldn't that $200,000 go down to Mexico? Well, first of all, we're treating that $200,000 as a loan to Fabled Copper, which is a private subsidiary of Fabled Silver at this point in time. So that'll have to be repaid in one way, shape, or form. But on top of that, the $200,000, because we had all these early exercise of warrants and everything else, right now I think our treasury is at $5.6 million.
Okay.
So, $200,000 really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean
that answers one of our questions. So you got 5.6 million in treasury right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's let's jump into some audience questions. I want to talk about maybe the copper. We got some questions on copper coming in, and then we'll talk about the main story, which is obviously the silver.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
A lot of good news coming.
Peter. Okay. So following today's, how much will the summer exploration program on the copper properties cost?
You know what? I wish you could ask me that question in probably 2 or 3 weeks. If you saw in the news release, I said, we have multiple exploration teams and outfitters and chopper companies and everything else. And right now we're putting all those numbers together, and they're not, it's a complicated thing to put together time-wise and everything else. And we're almost there. So stay tuned. I'll be able to give you an exact number on that.
Okay. Follow-up question. Do you already have surface sampling resistivity-induced polarization for the copper property?
Wow. Yeah, that's all the good stuff. Yeah, you know what? Not only has there been, now you got to remember, we're talking about something about 40 miles long and 6 miles wide, with 3 kind of belts of copper running through it. And that area has been, in the past, flown either in bits or pieces, flown by airborne geophysics, and then over other times that gaps being filled in. And that led to a 2017 ground geophysical survey. And in 2017, I was actually on this property. And I thought it was quite interesting at that time. So from that, there's documented history right down to mining records, mining production, road construction, mill facility constructions, sampling, mapping, the whole database. And so part of our whole exercise of evaluating the potential of this, if you want to call it first time ever wrapping the whole district up, is we took all that and we compiled it into one big database and put everything on top of each other, so we could from there go, instead of all these piecemeal stuff, go have one big database that we could zero in on, say, high priority targets that we think would be quite interesting, a game changer, and we're basically there.
Okay. Next question is, if you decide to do a drilling program on the copper project in BC, do you plan to do fast, intense drilling similar to what you're doing in Mexico?
You know what? No offense to BC. My biggest worry is getting a drill permit. And a lot of times, and this, you got to remember, this drilling is a helicopter drill support. So in other words, a helicopter slings in a drill and you construct the drill on the site and you drill from that. It's a little different. And often to get drill permits in the neck of the woods we're in, it could be a 4-month process. And if it is a 4-month process, we have a 2.5 month window to explore. So, you know, the sooner we push the button on this to apply for a permit, and right now we are actually looking at drill hole locations on surface to get an idea of this. But time is of the essence to apply for permitting. So if targets are there and the timing's right, yes, I would love to see a drill turning.
Okay. So more to come on the copper project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there is, and I'm not trying to be vague to anyone.
Right.
Just look, there's a tremendous amount of data. There's a lot of history here, and we've compiled it all. And for the shareholder to understand what the value of this asset is, I believe that it has to be presented in a clear and concise, logical fashion of what it is you have, why you think it's so great, and what are you going to do with it. And we're just about there, Jack.
Okay. So, but it's got to be apparently something, significant enough that, that there was a $5 million payment that was supposed to be made at some point. I mean, look, whoever signed this deal is not, I mean, they have, they're not, they have some experience in the resource sector, right? I mean, this is.
Well, I'll tell you the ultimate question. The ultimate question about this property is, and there's no doubt about that, that it has a lot of copper in it, none whatsoever. But this is in the trend and almost like the copper porphyry, gold copper porphyry trend of British Columbia, where you get these big monsters, like huge, and, maybe 0.5% copper or something like this, and they become these big open pits. Teck Corporation is one of the bigger operations. And you have such an intense amount of copper spread over such a large area, which we own, but the average tenor that you're seeing, you get bonanza grades, but on average it's about 3.5%. It's not 0.5%; it's 3.5%, and you can get bonanza values of 29% copper. But the point is what put it there? Is there a big copper porphyry underneath it? Very similar to what we're doing in Mexico. Is there something underneath this thing? And that's leakage coming up from it. Because if it is, man, it's got to be friggin' big, because this thing's footprint is 40 miles long and over 6 miles wide. So
it's like the Loch Ness monster. It's like the Loch Ness monster. You just have this.
Yeah. We'll call it Nessie.
Okay. So Marcel Desney, how far down the road do you see before some big news that retail and institutional investors will consider a game changer? When will we have a?
Well, I think I'm actually expecting assay results either late today or tomorrow for hole 8B. And if people remember, 8B was the one that we get down to about 61 meters or whatever, and we're trying to cross this fault at an oblique angle to test the north-south structure idea. And the hole started caving in on us, and it was just terrible drilling conditions. So we pulled out, and we went in with larger size drill core. And this was 3 3/4 inch drill core. And we drilled the hole, and we got through the area at 64 meters, and we kept drilling. And if someone, they remember, I don't know, we talked or it was in a news release or whatever, I had mentioned that we had hit our target. And so I'm expecting those assays either either late tonight or tomorrow. If that's the case, then I'd say early next week you'll see a news release on that, and I think that is very exciting. And
Next
then
week, we might have some exciting news next week. Bottom line.
yeah, but
Okay.
I will tell the public, just because we've talked about this before, also that because of the way the different length of drill holes and the way the sampling goes in and everything else, I'm expecting like a flurry of friggin' drill hole results. You know, where we might be talking about 2 or 3 holes in one release.
So this is going to be, so basically the pace of news flow is going to pick up in the next few weeks.
Oh, is it ever? Is it ever? There's going to be a lot to be said, and we're just getting to the fun part now.
Okay, the fun part is about now. You've had some success in copper. Go back to copper. So, I mean, that's been kind of your background was kind of in copper, wasn't it?
No. I'm afraid not. No, not copper. It was mainly gold and silver.
Okay.
These big copper porphyry units, and especially in like northern BC, you have to be specialized in these things. I know enough to be dangerous.
Okay.
But as I said in our news release, you know, we're talking to various groups for our exploration program and everything else, and these are experts, you know. And I go, hey, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know.
Okay, that's actually that's good, because I mean that's important, that we can bring that know how to delegate to people who are experts.
Well, and they're colleagues of mine. I know them.
Yeah.
They're friends, people, if they talk about me, they go, "Oh yeah, Peter, he specializes in silver." And I'm talking about another friend of mine. They may say, "Well, he's a porphyry copper guru or whatever." Another guy's a gold guru.
Okay. So I for some reason I thought that you also had some like stuff going on in copper early on in your career. No, that must have been the silver then.
I did some work for Freeport McMoran, which
Okay, that's where I got. Okay.
And did some work for them in the early days. Yeah.
Okay. So we got a question here from before starting the drill program in Santa Maria to present. What discovery has excited you the most that was unknown to you before the commencement? So in Mexico, which discovery was the most exciting to you?
You know what? I'll tell you something. This is really funny. This is a true story, and it did happen to me, and it was in Mexico. So the first mine we put in production, called the Nuestra Senora, and it was in Cosala in Sinaloa, and the ore body was in front of us, and we're designing this ramp to spiral down on the edge of the ore body, and then every once in a while at a certain level there'd be like a tube coming off it where you'd access into the ore and take it out, for lack of better words, right? So we're defining this thing, and we're trying to stay away from the ore body, because if you kind of touch the ore body, you can sterilize it. You can't mine around there and drive around there at the same time. So you have to leave that alone and then just go in and take what you want. I'm very simplistic about this. So anyways, we're doing this, and we're drilling the head of the ramp. We're being very careful and all this other stuff. And it's a Friday afternoon, and Cosala is about an hour's drive from Mazatlan. It's a beautiful resort on the beach, and a lot of the people on the weekend would go there. So we're underground, and we're drilling crews and everything else. So we line up a whole new set of holes, right? And they're supposed to go in this direction, and yada yada yada, and to define this thing. And then we take off for Mazatlan to go down to the beach for the rest of the day. Come back the next day, and I go underground to see this hole that I lined up. And the guys had turned the drill rig 180 degrees around in the wrong direction and drilled the hole. And you know what? They hit 4 million tons of massive sulfide, brand new deposit, sitting 20 meters off the ramp. We actually threaded the needle without even knowing it between two massive ore bodies.
Okay, so
and by someone drilling a hole in the wrong direction found 4 million extra tons.
This is, it'd be good if we had you just telling this while sitting around a campfire.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot of stories around. There's a great story.
So the Mexico project is coming along. It looks like there's some good things happening. Is the bottom line with it?
There is, and I apologize to everyone, but I'll tell you, testing these north-south structures, we've had a heck of a time trying to get through. We have it beat now, but it was a learning experience. But we lost the first part, 60 meters of hole 8. Then we got through at 8B. Hole 9, we thought we were laughing. Went down. We lost a friggin' hole about 20 meters before touchdown. Hole 10, we turned the drill, so we drill at right angles to it. And that was very successful. And I expect those assays probably maybe next week or the week after. But there's going to be a whole pile start coming in. 10, 11, we've already drilled. 12, we've already drilled. 13, we've just started, and then I'll be telling you where we're going there. But holes 12 and 13 actually are the blue sky holes. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, so here, okay. Speaking of blue, okay. So is the current blue sky drilling plan to do one drill hole in each IP anomaly?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. You go, you test them, sniff them out or whatever, see what it is, if it's enticing or not, and then continue on with your plan, because it's very easy to get sidetracked here. You start in one direction and find something else. So let's evaluate everything as a whole, and then we'll be back for round 2.
Okay, let's catch up. Okay, can you give a rough estimate on the mineable ounces of silver discovered thus far?
I wish I could, but honestly, I can't. We reported on 7 holes. It's just too early in the game. Too early. But I'm happy. I'm happy, and I think the shareholders would be very happy.
Here's an interesting question, actually. I guess, Peter, what are your thoughts on the price of silver? I was looking at that silver chart. This thing looks like it's about to explode.
It does. There's all kinds of theories on this and everything else, and people have, David Morgan, who I know quite well, and Eric Sprott's a good friend of mine. Keith Neumeyer's a good friend of mine. And the one thing that everyone does talk about, and I honestly believe it too, I believe that where everything went sideways was when these ETFs started. And there used to be a silver to gold ratio, and then when they started doing the ETFs, that ratio no longer exists anymore. And you could chart that ratio for centuries.
Yeah, we did an interview with David Morgan last year, and he was saying, hey, the ratio has to compress, which means he's basically saying that silver is going to go to, I don't know, $100 an ounce, something like it's got to be, what is it, 16 to 1, I think it is, or what is it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be, there's some silver squeezing, a lot of going on by JP Morgan. And actually, when you saw at the end of March, silver going down almost at the call hour of 4 o'clock on the 31st, the call on the put on silver was $25, and it closed at, and it just fell, and it closed at $24.96.
Yeah.
So you're not telling me that these guys are goofing around with something? No, come on. So yes, but their day is coming, and it's coming very shortly, I believe. So we'll see.
Are you still confident this property is at least 50 million ounces of silver?
That's my target. So I'll stick with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Early in the game.
Okay. How many warrants still remaining to be exercised?
That's a great question. There is, dollar-wise, there was $9.2 million of warrants outstanding, and I believe 5.7 million dollars were exercised out of 9.2. Yeah.
Okay, so about $4 million more that you can bring in.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Which are 10 cents, and we are trading at 17 or 18 or whatever.
Okay, so they're going to come in at some point, right? I mean, probably.
Well, they're in the money. I mean,
yeah.
they're up 70%. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think when so again, I look at that silver chart. Like, I mean, this thing looks like it's about to like go to into the 30s. And by the way, I'm not like, again, there's some people who are like, silver nuts, gold bugs. So I'm again, Bitcoin. So I'm really neutral, but so it's like, I'm kind of, it really looks like it's about to explode. And once it does, I think there's going to be another mania that's going to drive a lot of attention to the juniors, the junior explorers for sure. There's going to be a nice tailwind coming in.
Oh, absolutely, and you know what, the silver is going to be much more explosive than gold, much more explosive. So yes, and if you look in the spectrum of gold explorers versus silver explorers, there's not a heck of a lot of silver explorers. It really is comparatively. So you have to pick and choose who you want. But the other the question people should ask themselves too is just go and look at the chart on copper. Now, not only do you have a depleting supply, but we're all in the world coming out of COVID, and we've been on hold for 2 years now. And pretty soon the growth is going to start again, and the building's going to pick up, Jack. And they're going to start consuming more copper.
Yeah, I've actually read some articles that there really is like a looming shortage of copper. And copper is like it's like a key metal, a key industrial metal.
Absolutely.
The whole economy revolves around copper.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that a lot of the supply of copper in the world comes out of Chile and everything else. But these great big open pit mines, they're all tired. They've been around for a long time now, so it's costing them more and more to produce a pound of copper. So, the chase is on to find new supply. So it's going to be quite interesting.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got a couple questions. I guess people ask, "Are you more optimistic today than before?"
I am more optimistic. Yes, I am.
Okay, so the optimism level is increased. Is higher today than it was, 6 months ago.
Well, guys, and I apologize for this. I was playing the devil's advocate before because I had all these copper assets, but I had this really bad deal in front of me, and if I didn't get what I wanted, and this particular asset that we just announced yesterday, I was just going to walk away from it. And if I walked away from that, I would have walked away from everything because I wanted the whole copper belt or none. And so I was prepared to do that. So meanwhile, I'm telling you guys all about silver, and it's true, all our money was going into silver and everything else. But meanwhile, in the back room, I'm arm wrestling with these other copper guys. So it's out. Let's put it that way. So.
Okay. So we got the super fan here, Brock Anderson, making a $6.99 super chat, and this is the guy that does the T-shirts, the silver.
Yes, I know.
T-shirts. You got your T-shirt, right?
I do. Thank you very much, Brock. And also, I know Brock was talking about making hats now. Believe it or not.
There's gonna be a whole merchandise line.
I think so. This is going to be funny. Yeah.
There's going to be a branded bear spray because you need the bear spray in BC, right? The bears are coming out in the summer, aren't they?
Yeah. You can get grizzly and blacks there for sure. Yeah.
Okay. David's asking, can you give a rough estimate when you think all your drilling operations will be finished? In this, I'm assuming he's talking about Mexico.
Originally, our plan, or we thought the plan was to finish the 8,000 meters of drilling by the end of May. I think we've discussed that before. And here we are. So we have May, we're say early April. So we have all of April and all of May. And probably as of yesterday, we drilled 3,000 out of 8,000 meters. So I'm thinking that it won't be May any longer. It's probably going to be probably June. And some of that, if you want to call it lost time, it's actually dealing with these north-south faults where it took us a lot longer to do than
days and days longer. So, yeah.
Okay, so Pete, can you kind of lay out the milestones? And you just give people again. You've done a good job of explaining sort of for the layman, like exactly valuations in the resource space. With all that being said, can you kind of lay out like what's the path, like what are the milestones that you need to hit for this stock to be 10x from here, for this to be like a $2 stock, $3 stock? What needs to happen?
2 or 3 things, and one, of course, is success. But ideally, originally we proposed the whole idea of why the Santa Maria property was. We proposed that it would behave or should behave similar to the Peral camp that has produced over 800 million ounces of silver. And our next door neighbors produce 500 million of that, Santa Barbara unit, and they're, we can see them from where we are. So we should have that. On top of that, the general fabric of the mineralization in the Peral camp, believe it or not, it's actually north-south. Now, why would our property not have that fabric? But when we took the property on, there's one structure and there's two veins, Santa Maria Dos, and they go east-west. That's all there's on the property. No. So we've proved that, there's not 2 veins, it's an east-west structure. We've proved that, there's not one east-west structure, there's multi-east-west structures of which we're drilling now. We proved that there's north-south mineralization fabric by drilling. So everything that we've said it would behave like is there. And so what we're doing now, Jack, is we're zeroing in, taking all those vectors, if you want to call them, and zeroing in on this is the place. And that's the game changer right there.
Okay, and so essentially, which milestones would you have to hit for the stock to get to those levels? Like, what would would it be at? What needs to happen basically?
I think what will end up having to happen, and I believe it will be, is that when we just start putting out drill hole after drill hole after drill hole of bang, 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 here it is. We have figured this out, and every hole is a boomer. And you're just going to see, the resource calculations adding on and adding on. But not only that, people have heard me talk about this before about the structures is they're very predictable. So if you can start predicting these things through your testing, and then just turn around and say, okay, I can vector in on this. Let's go. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so in theory, we could see a big move in May in the stock once you have
yes, for sure, or even sooner, tell you the truth. But also remember too, and you just brought it up yourself, Jack. Silver moves, our stock will move automatically. I mean, they just silver stocks track. I mean, you put our chart, our share price chart up against the silver price from the time of January to the end of March, and it just tracks. I mean, it's crazy, up and down, there. So it's that's it. So there's combination where, but can you imagine if you get both?
If you get both, right. That would be.
Yes, so that's the ultimate, right?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because then you have the tailwind, then you have it's kind of like the fast car on top of the fast train.
Oh yeah.
Two things going on. Okay. Oh, here is a great question, which actually I wanted to bring up in your press release. You mentioned, I made a note here that you're working with your investment bankers. I think with the copper project, sort of exploring alternatives to maximize shareholder value, something. And I think Amanda's saying are you planning to potentially spin out the copper project, or what are the?
There's that's a great question, and it's one we're dealing with right now. I'm talking to our advisors, Research Capital, and I'll tell you the quandrum. You got 2 great assets in a company, and the company has a market cap of about $36 million right now. Last December, when we talked, our market cap was $1.7 million, Jack. So we've done very well, but the
the point is, if we were taken out, say an offer of a premium of whatever for both of those assets, is that in the best value of the shareholder? Or because you don't get any value for it right now, because you're into the silver asset. So what is the safest way and the best way to do that? And part of figuring all this out is believe it or not, we have used some taxation lawyers, and everybody likes the tax man, right? But they say the two things you can't change in life is death and taxes. And so we have to look at that, because we don't want to do an event that's going to be a nasty taxation event for our shareholders or for the company or whatever. So we have to evaluate this, although we're getting fairly close to a resolution one way or another. Does it add a value? Absolutely.
Okay.
Someone may say, gee, you got that whole copper camp. I really don't give a hoot about your silver project. I'm buying you because of your copper.
Yeah, I think it's better to have them. I think it's better to have them separate, especially if both metals are starting to move. So if you have them both separate, separate assets. Essentially, it's a 2-for-1 right now. The company you're getting a 2-for-1 right now,
and two of the most exciting metals there is. That everyone's the bullish on. I mean, it's crazy, and it happened that way. And I won't complain at all. And it's certainly a pleasure to resolve this problem to the best interests of the Fabled shareholder.
The blue sky. Okay, question. I think we answered, but just in case, when blue sky drilling, when is that starting?
It's already started, and we've already completed one hole into the anomaly SMIP-4, I believe, which is in the central north of the property, going east-west, and which is offset by a north-south structure. People have heard me talk about. We drilled the eastern section first, and that hole has just been completed as of yesterday. Now we're drilling the western section of that, and so far so good.
Okay, so let's wrap up, Peter. Basically, bottom line is you're going to have some news coming out shortly. Any moment, any day, basically, between now and next week.
I expect to have these assay results tonight or tomorrow. So that means if I get them, well, they'll be out Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. So basically, so you got that, and essentially the takeaway is that the pace of news flow is about to start picking up into the coming weeks.
Yes, I expect to have more results coming in. There's some other things we're working upon. We'll be updating the shareholders on the copper assets. We'll be, once the board approves of or whatever budgets to be spent on the copper project and where that money's coming from and everything else. We'll let the shareholders know on that. I'll be outside with my squeegee, in case we need any more extra money there, Jack. And I'll get a few extra dollars there, and we'll get it done.
I don't know, just in case anybody doesn't know the reference, maybe the cars, the squeegee guys, and come to the cars. I don't know. They do that in Canada. That happens.
Yeah, they do them. Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, excellent. So on that note, Peter, I want to thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the great questions today. And we're going to have you back, maybe probably next week, at the end of next week, to do an update. So thank you again, and we'll see everybody on the next live stream.
Okay, thank you all.